Okay, well, here we go again. So, my apologies. I've spent the last couple of minutes on mute. So let me restart. Hey guys, I thought I'd do the Q&A session a little bit different today. I put together some questions that I thought some of you might have as you're starting out your action journey right now. So without further ado, I'm going to share my thoughts on those questions, and I'm going to share a couple of my experiences this week and last week of how I was struggling with my black box of inaction and how I overcame some aspects of it, which ones I'm still working on, and what I'm doing to manage those and still take action despite of them being there. So without further ado, let me just go back. So the first question was, the first question I'm going to answer is, I keep overthinking every detail. How do I know when to stop planning and just start doing? So what I've found to be true about myself is I overthink when I fall into this thought process that there needs to be a right answer to the problem I'm trying to solve, to the decision I'm trying to make, to the question I've been asked. And that is totally normal. And I think it has a lot to do with how a lot of us are raised in an environment where we're told there are right and wrong answers, which I no longer believe there are. The way that I help myself solve for that when I do realize it's happening is I give myself, let's say, for example, we're solving a problem or I'm making a decision. I give myself a time limit, 24 to 48 hours. I tell myself, okay, I can think about this, I can gather information, I can do whatever I think is necessary to do to feel, this is the important part, more comfortable about doing the next step. But the important thing to realize is that after that time frame, it's action. Because most of the time when we're overthinking and thinking that there's a right answer, we need to remind our brain that there is no right answer. And even if there were a right answer, the answer that you can come up with from the position you're in right now will not be as qualitative as the answer you can come up with once you've taken action and you have a different perspective. So that's a perspective shift that's helped me in a lot of situations when I was overthinking to just start taking action on my best bad guess and go from there. I'm going to move on to the second question. I'm terrified of making mistakes. What's one simple step I can take today to overcome that fear? So this one is hits close to home. I constantly have a do we don't we relationship with fear of making mistakes, and the thing that has ended up helping me throughout the process of building this community is understanding that the definition of mistakes needs to change. So again, as you can see, there's a trend here. A perspective creates an emotion, and the emotion amplifies the perspective, and that creates a loop. In this case, the fear of making a mistake, meaning that something could go wrong and not turn out the way that you want it to, which is your expectation, causes this loop of you thinking like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What if I mess up? What's helped me is understanding that the only mistake that truly exists is not doing what you set out to do. And what I mean with that is regret. So yes, there are mistakes in relationships. Yes, there are mistakes in at work. Yes, there are mistakes in life, in all aspects of life. I'm going to just sum that up. But in my personal philosophy, the one that's helped me the most is understanding that not taking action, regardless of if that action would lead to mistakes or not, is a confirmation of the mistake in itself. Now, the paradoxical part of it is that sometimes not doing anything is also taking action, and sometimes it's the best action. But right now, we're talking about your goals and your the things that you want to do for your life, and in most cases, taking action, having those hard conversations, uh, starting to work on your goal is the right answer, and not taking action is the only mistake. So that is the philosophy that's been helping me, and I think it's practice at the end of the day, because you need to learn how to manage your fear, understand that the fear that is happening in your head, the expectation of what you think will go wrong, hasn't actually transpired yet. And so the thing that you're afraid of is actually not real yet. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is, I set big goals, but then I freeze. How can I break them down so I actually begin? So this one also hits close to home because I used to do this all the time, and I still do sometimes, especially when it comes to the community. One thing that comes to mind is the shrinking the Black Box challenge that I wanted to do within 5 days. Not considering the fact that this time, even though I've done workshops before, this time I was creating the content for the workshop, I was advertising the workshop, and then I was going to host the workshop. Where, as in the past, I've only hosted the workshop, so I didn't quite understand the depth of what goes into actually promoting a workshop, getting people to join. But throughout the process, as my expectation was I'm going to do it by the end of the week. As the days passed and my progress took longer than expected, I started to realize the situations in which my black box was trying to get me to freeze. And one thing that helped me through it is the actual process that I want to show you guys within the challenge itself, which is um, understanding, number one, that the big goal is neither hard nor easy, only emotions make it so. And our emotions oftentimes are informed by our interpretations of what is currently happening. So in my case, I had an expectation. In reality, I was not meeting that expectation. And so my emotions started to make taking action more and more difficult. So in order to help myself, what I did is say, okay, is it really necessary for me to do it on this quick of a timeline? No. Is it really necessary for me to do everything in 2 days? Because that's basically what I was doing. I was working my full-time job, and I was onboarding another customer, and then I was working on building up the workshop, all trying to do that within 24 hours, and it wasn't working. But I was expecting myself to let it work. And so I realized, no, that doesn't make sense. And I had to, I call it metaphysically bite the bullet, because it really difficult for me when I don't when I don't follow through on the things that I say I would do. And I had to say, okay, I'm going to push it. And in order for me to avoid this happening again, I told myself, okay, I'm going to break it down until the point where it feels ridiculous not to take action on it, right? And so an example of how I measure that is I ask myself, is this something that I could do in 2 minutes? And the goal here is not to just work 2 minutes and then let it go. The goal here is to work the 2 minutes and then ask yourselves, can I do another 2 minutes? And then doing those 2 minutes and then saying, okay, I did 4 minutes, can I do 5 minutes? And then once you did the 5 minutes, okay, I did 9 minutes, can I do 10 minutes? Okay, once you did the 10 minutes, you see the building blocks keep going. And what it's based off of is that you're helping your brain build positive evidence towards your ability to be productive. Great. I think I answered that question. I'm going to move on to the next question. When I sit down to work, I get distracted. What's a quick ritual I can use to lock in and focus? So I feel very funny being the one to answer this now, 8 months later, because 8 months ago, I went to a psychologist thinking that I had ADHD because to paint the picture, whenever whenever I was working and there was a noise or there was a sound, I would get distracted immediately. It got to the point that, for example, my phone would vibrate. I would pick up my phone and I would check what the message was, regardless if it was a message or something else or a notification. I would just open my phone and I would start scrolling and get lost without even realizing it. Or another example is my cat would scratch on the door, and then I would get up and I would open the door, and then all of a sudden I'd be in the kitchen without realizing, without wanting to be in the kitchen. What it ended up being was just another form of my black box of inaction for me, um, trying to get me to avoid the task. Because one thing that I didn't realize at the time is that I was very anxious and very much under stress, due to the fact of my own expectations, uh, the actual situation I was in, and the fact that there was a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity around um, us moving countries, and if we could stay in the country that we moved to, um, so on and so forth. So let me get back to your question, which is what's a quick ritual that I can do to lock in? Something that helps me now is, again, and it always boils down to the basics, is if you know this is going to be a task that is that you don't feel like doing today, um, accept that and acknowledge that. And doing that, but I do that by saying, hey, look, I know this isn't a task that I want to do right now, but it's a task that is required, and I am a person that does things that are required. Um, that mentality has helped me a lot. But in a practical sense, what's helped me is, again, just chunking it down, building up a positive relationship to the action, even if it's uncomfortable. Um, and you can do that by, putting on a good song and saying, okay, you know what, for the next 20 minutes, this is the playlist of which I'm going to just focus on the next immediate thing. So instead of saying I'm going to look at the whole task, you're going to look at the you're going to look at line items. You're going to be like, okay, did I write the first sentence? Okay, great. Can I write the second sentence? Okay, great. Can I write the third sentence? And what you'll notice is you'll start building up your focus muscle. So I went from not being able to focus at all to, let me just quickly check my statistics, uh, to being able to focus a total of 5 hours. It's going on to 6 hours a day, which is insane for me now thinking about it. But it's, first of all, it's building up that muscle, and then second of all, understanding what the distraction actually is. So is the distraction your environment? Well, then you need to change your environment and remove the distractions. Is the distraction your internal experience? I'm going to just call it that. So your black box, then you need to focus in on one thing or the other. So if you feel anxious about the task, then you're probably thinking that there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. If you feel uncertain about the task, then you might lack clarity. So having another conversation about the task and what's actually expected of you in reality is helpful, so on and so forth. To sum it up, it's basically everything you're learning in the community right now. And over time, you'll get better at focusing. Yeah, sorry, I thought for a second I forgot to answer the question, but over time, as you learn how to manage yourself and your black box, and you learn how to remove distractions, identify which ones they are, and meet the work where you're at now, and focus on momentum instead of um, I'm going to say a lot of gunpowder and explosions, then you'll get there over time. But don't expect yourself to unlearn your focus habits within a night. Work with what you've got and go from there. You might not even have a focus problem. You might just have a distraction problem. So get rid of the distractions. Okay, I'm going to move to the next question. I often wait for the perfect moment. How do I learn to launch even if conditions aren't ideal? Uh, this question is very similar to the overthinking aspect because they come from the same tree. So, overthinking is something you do, waiting for the perfect moment is a result of overthinking and wanting the thing to not fail. So, if we understand that it's coming from emotional resistance and perspective again, uh, I think that the first thing we should address is that what does a perfect moment even look like? Because who knows, you could probably recreate it. So an example of that out of my own life, when I kept telling myself, "Oh, I'm not ready yet," I asked myself, "Well, what does ready actually look like?" And then I realized, well, in order to be ready for this thing that I want to do, I need to first figure out what I want to offer the people in the community. Okay, well, how do I figure out what I want to offer the people in the community? Okay, great. Um, Oh, I do it like that. Okay. Well, let me do that first, and then let me do the next thing. And by defining how what ready actually looks like, you can number one check if what you're asking of yourself is realistic to the current situation you're in. Number two, if it is, you can just go do it and then be ready because preparation is also part of taking action. And then number three, you also have a better understanding of what's important to you when you're doing the projects that you're doing, when you're working on the tasks that you're doing, and you can slowly build this, I call it blueprint of understanding what when your brain says the things that it says, like perfect moment or I'm not ready yet, you can understand what it's trying to tell you with that. Because sometimes um, we think words to be we think specific words, but they're actually a result of a lot of little actions and things that are important to us in the day to day. So yeah, those three help me learn to take more action when things aren't ideal. Oh, this one, number six. The question number six is actually, I would say, actually limiting belief in itself. Um, so I feel like I don't have the skills I need. Should I spend a week learning or just dive in? So this is actually, this one was really, this is a really good question and actually one that was very difficult for me to learn to distinguish. And fundamentally, your question originates from this idea that when you spend time learning something and when you spend time diving in, that's actually two separate things. So, for example, it functions under the assumption that if you just read enough, you will eventually get to the point where you can dive in and it works out perfectly. So it also has a sprinkle of fear of failure in it, right? And what I had to relearn, because I thought that was learning was for a very long time, is I had to relearn that uh, the actual definition of learning is taking action on the thing that you want to do. And I'm going to say it stupidly, and then I'm going to explain it. Trialing and erroring your way through it, right? So what I mean with that is oftentimes when you learn something, let's say through a textbook, and you've never taken action towards the thing that you're actually setting out to do, you just decide, okay, I know this is the general direction I want to go. This is the topic I want to learn on, so I'm picking up a book about it. Well, what you're actually missing in order for it to be learning is the context of what the book is actually talking about. Yes, you can get the theoretical context, but I'm talking about the experiential context at which you can then actually relate to what the individual is saying in that book. And so my suggestion is, and this is something that's helped me, I'm actually doing this in the community every day, is I am learning by turning my learning into projects that I then evaluate, right? And so you're wondering, okay, how do I turn my learning into project and how do I know if I'm successful or not? Well, you've started your journey with a specific outcome in mind. Let's just call it direction because outcome is very expectation setting, right? So you've set on this journey with a specific direction in mind, and you have a general idea of what it will look like when you get there, right? And so all you're trying to figure out now is what's going on along the way. How do I get there along? What are the individual pieces that I need to put into place so that I eventually get there, right? And so how I define a project is I tell myself, okay, well, this is where I want to go. This is what I think I need to do. So 24 hours to 48 hours of research, right? This is what I think I need to do. And so I'm going to go do it. And this is the result that I can relate to, that other people have gotten who are, and this is the important thing, on the same level of experience that I am. Not, not someone who's been doing it for years, on the same level as you, right? And what you do then is you complete the project and then you evaluate. Okay, did this bring me closer to my goal, or did this move me further away from my goal? So an example of this is, you know, that last week I started doing daily vlogs of my interactions with the black box, with my own, of managing my own black box of inaction. And I did it for 5 days for my limiting beliefs experiment challenge. And then I sat down and I evaluated. And what was I evaluating for? Well, I was evaluating to find out, number one, can I do it? Number two, is what I have to say valuable? And number three, does it resonate? And after I finished the project, there were a couple of things that happened, right? I understood that my idea that videos need to be perfect in order for people to even want to watch them was incorrect. Number two, that I need to have a super polished script and understanding of what I'm going to do in order to make it valuable for people. That was also incorrect because I did those videos off the cuff, like just explaining the situation I was in, just sharing the thoughts I had of that day, and 6,000 people viewed it, right? The algorithm promoted it. So that for me is a good indicator that it says, okay, people will spend enough time watching it so that the algorithm says, okay, let me promote it to more people. Let me push it to more people. And so is that a definitive answer? No, but it at least tells me that it's helping me achieve the goal that I was trying to reach, which was making people aware of the black box of inaction, making people aware that procrastination is not just about doing it or not doing it. It's about this internal dialogue we have with our black box of inaction. And so, will I continue doing it? Yes, because now I can set up another project with other questions that I'm trying to answer and improve along the way. And once I've done like 5 or 6 projects, I can then say, okay, what from this project actually worked really well, and then improve from there. And it took me so long to understand that that was actually learning. And everything else was just my fear of what other people would say, and that's why I would spend more time reading than actually doing. But it's the actual, it should be the other way around. Spend more time doing and making mistakes than reading, than reading and not doing. I hope that answered your question, because the answer is you should spend some time learning, but then launch even if conditions are not ideal. Okay. I'm going to go into question 7. I start with tons of energy, but burn out fast. How can I place? How can I pace myself to keep going? This one is. I don't think I'm the best person to answer this right now because I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But I'm going to. Maybe I'm a couple of steps ahead, and I'm gonna share with you what I realized. Last week, when I was working on the shrinking the black box challenge. Actually, let me take a moment to drink something here. Okay, So last week, when I was working on the Shrinking the Black Box challenge, day after I started working on it, I was reminded that my passport was running out in 6 days, and I had not done anything to renew my passport. Now the issue is that I'm living in a country that I have a residency for, and in order to keep that residency, I needed to have a passport. And so I then immediately stopped what I was doing and researched how was I supposed to renew my passport. Well, it turned out that renewing your passport takes up to 6 weeks in a traditional way. And in the country I'm currently in, there was no obvious way of how to expedite it. So, of course, I panicked and I started going into overthinking. I started to become terrified of my mistake and went into a unproductive research spiral. But the end result was that I was able to figure out through, asking various people who are in a similar situation than I was, what I can do. And they told me, well, the place where I live has an embassy. I can go physically and I can explain my situation, and they're sure they'll help. So I had to. The only barrier would be getting an appointment. So I spent, I think, several hours on the appointment website, refreshing and refreshing and refreshing after they updated their appointment slots so that I could get an appointment slot the next day. Then on the next day, I got the announcement that the documentary that I was working on for 3 years with some colleagues will be premiered in June in Paris. And they needed me to be there, so I needed to find hotels that week. And then I had remembered that I had said I would finish the Black Box challenge, the Shrinking the Black Box challenge in the same week. So as you can see, I was starting to get overwhelmed. On top of that, then a potential new client for my freelancing business finally called me back and said that they would want to start the project onboarding that week as well. And that was about the point where I started to feel very burnt out because there were a lot of things that were demanding my attention, but not a lot of time to, or not a lot of perceived time to do them. So I did none of it well. So the one thing that actually helped me pace myself was to then say, okay, I am doing too many things at once. I need to prioritize. And so what I prioritized was the passport thing. After I did the passport thing, I finished onboarding the freelancing client, and then I returned and I mentioned to you guys in the community that while I was checking my ads, I was thinking, okay, do I postpone it? Do I not? And then I decided, okay, based on the ads and based off of the circumstances I'm currently in, I'm going to postpone it. And it felt horrible, but it helped me realize that the best way to pace myself is to say no to more things and to be very specific about the things that I do say yes to, not because I want to be, I think that I am someone better or something like that, but because it allows me the opportunity to do the things that I want to do well. So to answer your question of how to pace yourself, the answer is saying no more and slowly saying yes to things that actually move in the same direction. Because as you just witnessed from my story, life can happen. Okay, I'm going to answer two more questions, and then I think I'm going to go from there. And wish you guys a nice night, right? So I think the two more questions that I can speak to are, number one, I worry others will judge my first attempts. How do I stop caring about what they think? I'm laughing again because this question or this situation that's being described in this question is one that I was struggling with a lot more than I more than I once admit. I was struggling with that one most of my life. And that is because I thought, and this has to do, so I'm gonna go a little bit on a tangent here. This has to do with the fact that living with a disability, people have uh, predispositions or pre-perspectives of what I can or can't do. And so I always felt like whatever I tried new was always harshly judged, especially if it fell outside of the realm of expectations from people who had their own idea of what it means to have a disability. And what ended up and how this affected me, regardless of having a disability, how this affected me later in life was in 2021. I It was the fourth time that I had tried to start a YouTube channel, and I had thought that this time it will be different. Was when I just figured out, limiting beliefs exists. I want to share this. I went on my solo travel journey. I wanted to document the whole process. I documented a lot of it, but during that process, as I started releasing more and more videos, everybody was giving me positive feedback. But in my head, I was only giving myself negative feedback because I was so worried of what people might think when um, I start because I had just started freelancing and because I had just started um, what do you call it? Let me rephrase that. I had just started freelancing in the industry that I was doing the content style with. And I was worried that people would perceive me as unprofessional because I was making vlogs and because I was sharing my story. And then I eventually stopped because I thought it would affect my ability to get work. And since I am a freelancer, all of my income depended on me being able to work with clients or not. But the funny thing is, two years later, one of the clients that I was working with a long time, uh, their the head of their department reached out to me and said, "Hey, by the way, why did you stop your vlogs? I sent your vlogs to so many people that came our way. And just so you guys know, I work in the as a freelancer. I work in the disability and mobility device industry, uh, and they've always said that it was so inspiring and so helpful. And I have some people who've been asking me if there's going to be more. What do I tell them? And I felt so ashamed in that moment because in my head, I had this entire story that people were going to be judging me and they won't give me work because of the work that I'm doing. When in because of the videos I was making, when in fact it was the complete opposite. When in fact those videos were the reasons why I was able to give a keynote last year in September before I started the community. When in fact those videos were the reasons why some of my now clients started working with me in the first place. So what I'm trying to say with this is you're when you're worried about who will judge you, first of all, check who is judging. Is it you and your black box, or is it really the people that you strive to spend your time with? And I'm not talking about the people you're with now. They can judge because they're not on the same journey as you. The whole reason why you're taking this move outside of your comfort zone is because you want to be somewhere else than you are now, or you want to be in a better version of where you are now. And so your fear of judgment is just discomfort. And so what's been helping me a lot is remembering that the things that I'm creating for the people that I want in my life, and not for the people who will judge me negatively for doing what I want with my life. So long story short, I hope that helps you, that perspective shift. Focus not on the community that will judge you for doing what you want to do. Focus on doing what you want to do to find the people you want to hang out with, simply put. Okay, I'm going to go in for the last question. I just want to say one more thing to that. I Even with this Q&A, and even with the workshops and the videos I'm making, I still have these twinges of what if they judge me? But the more you do it, the more you take the steps, the better it gets. And just remember who you're doing it for. Yeah. So let me move on to the last question I'll answer for today. I know what I want, but I feel stuck. What's one exercise to get clarity on the very next action? Sorry. So, as you guys know, we have day one in the Decoding Your Procrastination challenge, and day one is focused on helping you choose your goal. And what I've seen a lot of people do when they choose their goals is they again, remember, when you're setting a goal, you're setting an expectation for yourself. You're saying, I will reach this place. And when you feel stuck, you're essentially stuck because your desire doesn't meet your reality. And so what I really suggest you to do to get clarity on the very next action is just to go back to that exercise and go to the section where you've decided your goal because you know what you want, and then try to break it down for the next 14 days, one task a day. And then when you've realized what the one task a day is, if you're already at that stage, then ask yourself, what about this is making me stuck? And what you'll probably realize, it's an emotional trigger. And so the solution would be, as mentioned earlier in this call, to chunk it down, to break it down into something that's so ridiculous that you don't, that you feel awkward not taking action on it. And if it's I really don't know what to do thing, then it doesn't matter what you try first. You also have the option to ask someone who's a couple of steps ahead of you. So I think with that, I've answered the most pressing questions within the community. If this was helpful for you, let me know. And if it wasn't, let me know what I can do to make it better. And as with everything I do, I hope to see you take action from it. And I'll see you next call. Peace.